Okay, before, I've got an apology to make before I start this presentation. I didn't, within the previous presentation, the Environment Agency was plastered all over the presentation, which obviously does not regulate within Scotland. So I didn't make any reference to Scottish Environment Protection Agency. You have my sincere apologies. The regulations are the same, but there's a different body that enforces it within Scotland. Okay, and I'm half Scottish, and I'll have a little bit of leeway. And I'm not completely English, so, but I'm really. So I'm really sorry. It was really bad. The title's not great on this, the view from the receiving end, but we'll just run with it. So, couldn't think of anything better. Sorry? I know. I couldn't think of anyone better, so I thought it'd make a few people chuckle anyway. So, right. First presentation, I seem like Dr. Death. That's because I've seen so much happen and so many companies have massive problems. I'd rather people thought about it and then went that way and went over the top and didn't have an issue, whether you use Grimald or not. I don't mind, but what I won't do is stand here and tell you a load of rubbish, because I've seen a lot over the years. I've seen a lot of things go wrong. So the previous presentation wasn't talking from a textbook, it's talking from practical experience. And if you want set the company names out, people that have had all these problems and massive problems, I can give them to you. So I'd rather be Dr. Death and you don't have an issue than Dr. Doolittle and you do have a problem. I can't remember. Right, so rather than going into loads of detail, I just thought I'd cover the main areas that I covered within 27001. Physical security. So wherever you've got data, it's got to be in a physical place. So there's a lot of emphasis put on in making sure that those physical premises are secure, as well as the environment, the actual. So it's not like looking at a server rack, it's looking at, okay, the environment that the server rack is in, is that secure? And then looking at the microenvironment, the room that the server's in, is that secure? Access, etc. Physical security, data in transit. This is more electronic. So you've got data, you will be interacting with other parties. So data will transit your organisation. While it's transiting your organisation, you're responsible for it. So just focus on data in transit. Electronic security, data access and storage. So you can look at physical security for data and making sure that it's in a concrete bunker. That's secure. But can someone access it electronically? Are your electronic controls in place to make sure that you can't access the data? So there's a focus on electronic security. There's a focus on disaster. It's my topic. There's a focus on disaster. So what processes and procedures and I'm not trying to go into too much detail. What processes and procedures do you have in place when something fails? You've got data, you're storing data, and everything goes down. What are you going to do? How are you going to resurrect that data securely? How are you going to make sure that data doesn't get into the public domain? So there's a focus on disaster. How many of the businesses have got 27001 in place? Yeah. 3. How many are trying to get 27001 in place? 3. Okay. Is it 27001, 2013 or 2005? Okay. But the 3 that have got it in place, is it 5 or 13? Okay. Right. Okay. Just thinking of people that have gone from 5 to 13 because it's tricky. Right. Employee security. The integrity of your employees, even your cleaners. Your cleaners are walking around your organisation and documents are left on the desk or PCs left on and it's not locked. So the people that potentially could access any data that you're storing, have you made sure the integrity is right? Have you made sure they can't access anything that they're not supposed to? Process security, system access and control. So you've got all this data, it's all set on lots of different types of systems. Could be sat in the cloud, could be sat within a service center, could just be sat locally if you're a small organisation and you've not even got a server network. So how do people access that data and how do you control that access to the data to make sure it's secure? Then you've got partners, suppliers and customer security. So you might have everything covered, but if you're going to get something like an external attack, it might be via one of your partners. See, when one of your partners may have some access to your server, you may have given them remote access to your server, they could have a virus. And there's one quite recently. It costs millions and millions and millions. They may have a virus. When they access your server, that virus, Trojan or something, drops into your server, or your suite of servers, or your data center, and starts mining data. So if you're really secure, you've got to make sure the people that you deal with are really secure as well, then they don't expose you to risk. So they're what I would say are the main broad areas that are covered within ISO 27001. How difficult to achieve? I would say it's very difficult. It's akin to, it's harder than 9001. We've got 4. It's harder than 9001, it's harder than 14001, much harder than 18001. It's a very difficult standard to achieve. The reason it's so difficult is you're talking about security of data. So when you're having a conversation with an IT manager or someone in infrastructure, you can have a very, very good conversation about data security. But the standard covers a very, very broad area. So you've got to get the whole organization bought into the data security. So there's a lot of education that has to happen with people that are not within the IT realm in order for you to get everything in place to make sure that the organization is secure. And that's what makes it so difficult. There's a lot of jargon to decipher. There's all sorts of, the way everything is worded within the statement of applicability with both 2005 and 2013, it takes you a long time to even understand what it actually means. Never mind trying to make sure that the organisation adheres to it. If you don't understand what they're talking about, how can you make sure you adhere to it? So there's a lot of jargon within the statement of applicability. If you've got 2004 and you're progressing to 2013, mapping the statement of applicability on 2004 to 2013 is a nightmare. Because you can't say they've taken the statements and changed a few words in them, but they've not said that particular statement is that particular statement on 2013. And obviously, if you're doing a transition, you may have 75% of it already covered. But unless you know what 75% of it is covered, it's very difficult to actually work out whether you're applicable or not. So and they've done no effective mapping exercise on that one that I've seen. You might have to reconsider your suppliers or partners. When you do the process, you might find you've got a massive risk dealing with one company because they have no security in place. And they potentially are going to cause a data issue for your organisation. So for those reasons, I think it's a very difficult standard to get in place. Is it worth it? It sounds like a L'Oreal advert, doesn't it? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? I think absolutely, massively, definitely yes. It's by far the hardest standard, but it's by far the best because it's a real standard. A lot of standards are ticking boxes. It's a standard that actually means something. When you understand what it's asking you for, and you think about it, say about 85% of the time you can go, oh yeah, I understand why they're asking us to do that, or understand why they're asking us to comply with that, because now I can see the risk. Very, very relevant, extremely relevant, and it really makes you think. It makes you think about things you won't have thought about in terms of, gosh, have we checked out our cleaners? Something as simple as that. I know I've mentioned cleaners before, but we've got really, have we checked out our cleaners? Who are our cleaners? They come around when everyone's not in the office, they've got access to all the different areas where the secure information is, but we don't know who they are. So really simple things like that. It makes you think about your security and not just highbrow, fancy algorithms and encryption, protecting your data, practical things. Generally, if you've got a data security issue, it's a practical issue, not a highbrow one. It creates a massive focus on awareness and education, not in IT, just not in IT. Lots of IT people will sit there, I'm not anti-IT at all, but lots of IT people will sit there and know all the latest security things, etc., etc. But outside of that environment, people are usually quite oblivious to it. All they know is, okay, we've got to keep our data secure, but that's about it. And they don't really actively do anything to ensure that happens, like make sure your screensaver's on with a password on your machine when you're away from your desk. something like that. Very, very simple. Well, why would I want to do that? Because if someone walks along, they can access your machine, they can access the server, and they could do something that they shouldn't be doing, or they can access data. So it creates an actual genuine awareness across organisations as to, oh, we need to do this for a reason, we need to do this for a reason. It's easy to communicate to them, don't do that, because if you do that, there's a problem. Because of that, because everyone has to get involved to get through it, it will significantly improve the data security management process and control within your organisation, which will significantly reduce down the risk that your organisation carries. So it isn't a paper ISO that someone gets a badge for, I've got that ISO, great. You can't get it unless you actually are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You can't just tick boxes with it. And if you genuinely do implement it and keep it up, then your organisation will be hugely more secure in terms of data, in terms of risk. Not impregnable, but it will go up leaps and bounds from where it is at the moment. So ultimately, the risk within the organisation is massively reduced. Yeah, I'll tell you it's quick. Questions and answers. Well, questions, not necessarily answers. That wasn't as Dr. Deathish, was it? Was it right?
No.
Oh, you just want me to get off there? I'm going. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Stephen. There'll be an opportunity at the end of all the presentation to ask any questions.